2, 1.
Hello.
Hello.
We're back. It's Chris and Momo.
Hello. I'm Momo.
We're talking about day 2 of our trip now. One of the best days of our trip.
It's hard to even categorize them by best because every day was the best.
That's
but
true.
This was the best of the best. One of the best of the
One
best.
of the best of the best. It was August 6th. It was our first full day in Liverpool. And we had booked a tour with a company called Pool of Life. I found them on TripAdvisor, I think.
Best tour ever.
Yeah. So obviously being in Liverpool, there are a lot of options when it comes to Beatles tours. There's like Magical Mystery Tour is like one of the biggest ones. I think it's only like a 2-hour bus ride around, and you're like obviously with a larger group, but we spent a little bit more money and we did one with Pool of Life. It was us and 3 other people in our tour group.
Yes.
Yeah, so I arranged it all with the owner of Pool of Life. His name is Tim, and he said, Ricky will pick you up at your hotel, Hardy's Night Hotel, at 9:30 a.m. on August the 6th. And we ran downstairs at like 9:28 or something like that,
yeah.
And then we heard someone
He was already there.
He's like, I'm not going to attempt the accent, but he was like looking for Chrisaline, and the front desk was like, who? And then we went down and we were like, that's us. And then we didn't know if we were going to have people on our tour.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, so you guys are from Canada? We have 1 Australian and 2 Americans. And we like drove around in like a little black cab.
Yeah.
Which is cool because that's something that everyone said when you go to England you should try, but we hadn't planned to do it.
We didn't know, yeah. But then,
so we had that experience without even planning it.
Ricky was like the best guy ever. Unbelievable. Like, coolest cat. He knew everything. Inside and out, stuff that, like, one of the first things he asked us all was how much do we read? Like, do we read about the Beatles? And, like, you know, how much do we read? And even then, like, I don't think it matters. Like, I think he's kind of fishing. Like, he's curious, right? Because you end up, like, there's so much more that isn't really... He
said that he's read, like, a lot of books on the Beatles, and a very small percentage of them actually tell a lot of, like, true stories. Because he said that a lot of the people who write them like haven't even been to Liverpool before, and he's born and raised
on Penny Lane.
On Penny Lane, yeah.
Like, this guy actually, like, if you don't know the Beatles, they have a song called Penny Lane. Okay, it's a real place. And so Ricky's father and uncle, both went to the same school that John Lennon went to.
Yes.
At the same time, and his uncle was actually classmates with John.
Yeah. So I could already tell, like, after just meeting Ricky, that it was going to be a good tour because he's, like, born and raised in Liverpool. He seemed very passionate about the Beatles. He knows a lot of stories from, like, first-hand accounts because he's friends with a lot of people who knew the Beatles.
Literally, like, Colin Hanton.
Yeah.
He, like, I think he said he goes for beers with him regularly. Like,
calls him, like, his mate. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So he's intricately, like... in there.
Yeah, he's in.
His niece graduated from LIPA.
Yes.
Is that what it was? Niece?
And she met Paul.
Because but Paul comes back every year?
He comes back to hand out diplomas. I don't know if it was every year, but he does.
But he does, yeah.
Hand out the diplomas.
Hands out the diplomas, yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's actually a good place to start on our tour.
That is. That was unplanned. Wow. I don't want to give away, like, too much detail of the tour, if that makes sense, because... I don't want, like, I guess we, like, paid for a service, and, like, I don't want to take away from Pool of Life. Is that fair?
That makes sense, yeah. And also, we've recommended so many of our friends to go, so I don't want to, like, spoil anything for anyone that wants to go.
That would actually go, yeah. I know it's, like, a bit of a trip, obviously, to just go to Liverpool and spend however much, and then to spend for the tour on top of it. But it's so worth it. They just, the whole day was magical. Started with us, with Ricky.
Yes.
In that cab... with our 2 American friends and Australian friend, and the first place he took us to was LIPA. So LIPA used to be the Liverpool Institute for Boys Grammar School.
It was a grammar school. Liverpool Institute.
It was still Liverpool
High
Institute,
School
right?
for Boys. Something like that.
Okay, so either way, it was something like that. So the original building was where Paul and George went.
Yes.
And it was on those steps outside there that John first laid eyes on Cynthia, which was his first wife, before Yoko.
Yeah, that was the first stop on the tour.
That was the very first one, yeah. And then right off the bat, Ricky was just firing off with
all these facts and
stories.
It started off when we got to spots, he would be like, "So who knows this?"
Yeah,
and then I would just shut up completely because I don't know all the little nitty gritty details. Momo reads a lot, and then the father of the American group also reads a lot. So it was just basically the two of them going off, and then Ricky would be like, "Don't be scared." He was judging, but not really. It was the funniest thing.
At first, we were eager to answer him, but then after a while, we were like, "All right, we know we're wrong." What is it, Ricky?
Yeah, that was the first stop. Was where John first met Cynthia. And
he pointed out that down the road, the Philharmonic is right there, so it's convenient for a bunch of lads who go to the same area to stop for a pint at the local pub there.
So then after we took our photos there, we swung around to the other side.
It's just around the corner.
School. And then he explained to us that it was going to close, and then Paul invested into it to
a lot of money
to save it, and now it's the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts.
LIPA.
He goes there sometimes to. I don't know if it was every year. I don't want to say it's every year because he's a busy guy, but maybe it is. But he goes to hand out diplomas.
Yeah.
And that's also the school, like Momo said, where George and Paul went. So they kind of knew each other, but weren't friends.
More friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he kind of Ricky told us the story of how they all met and how George was introduced to the band and stuff like that. So that was our first stop, was LIPA. Okay, so after LIPA, we all got back into the cab and we drove. Well, first of all, we didn't know where we were going. Ricky learned to not really tell us where we were going. He was just kind of driving and chatting with us, and then we would just pull up and be like, "Whoa, shit, this is a big, we're at a big spot." So I pulled up, and Momo looks out the window, and he's like, "Oh my god, it's Sentimental Journey." And the Australian was so happy for. He's like, "Oh, he's so excited. I'm so happy for him to have this moment." He was so sweet. They pulled out, and it was the pub called the Empress, where Ringo's mom worked. So
and the cover of the Sentimental Journey, which Ringo's solo album.
Everything was really close. So the pub was just off the main street. Across from that was the area. It's under construction now, but where Ringo's first childhood home was,
where he was born.
We weren't able to go in there. I think it's normally part of the tour, but
closed for
construction. And then the street that's kind of to the side and behind.
I'm pretty sure you could probably see it on the album cover, maybe slightly.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's literally right beside it. It's so funny how close it is.
That's where Ringo also lived as a child, but after his first house.
They moved. I think that was after they moved from his father.
Oh yeah.
When his
they
parents
separated.
Split. Yeah.
So it was really close to the pub, so that his mom could go and check up on him.
Ringo is the only child, I think it is, right?
I think so.
And he was just constantly sick, so he was just a little mama's boy and she took the sweetest care of him. So her job was literally there at the Empress, and it's literally how far of a walk is
I'll do a Google
5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's right there. So she was able to. Ricky was telling us allegedly she would just come by with a pop and a snack for poor little Ringo at home.
So we took photos there, of course. It's a cute little white and pink
house.
It's
really cute.
We were able to look inside because the person who owns it literally is not doing anything with it.
Yeah, it's just vacant. No furniture, nothing.
So it didn't really feel awkward going up and looking at it or anything like that and taking photos. It's really crazy how small these houses are.
Yeah.
And then from where they were to where they went. Because that was the first house that we saw was Ringo's. So it was just whoa.
Yeah. I know I've read it's different because you read all about the growing up, Tune In and stuff like that. You read all these books, and then I read about Ringo's upbringing and how he didn't really live in the best house or anything like that growing up. But then it's different to actually go and see it and just to be in front of it, and you're like, holy smokes! This guy went from from living in an area like this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely, you know what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
I make it sound
Well, definitely,
terrible.
like, because it was after the war, too, so it was much more difficult than it is now to probably live in that area.
Yeah.
I think out of the four of them, like, Ringo was probably the most poor, and then maybe George.
Something like that.
Yeah. They, like,
that's what the books say.
That's what the books say. Based on the areas compared to, like, their house versus John's house,
yeah.
you could definitely say that.
You can see it in that regard, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good segue, because after that we went to George's house.
Arnold Grove.
Arnold Grove.
Arnold
Grove, yeah. Someone actually does live in George's house, so it was, like, kind of awkward to, like, you didn't want to look inside or anything.
Yeah, the blinds are up anyways.
We were able to, like, take photos there. It was very similar to, like, Ringo's house, which is, like, a big block of, like, it's just a rectangle building, and then they're just, like, townhouses.
Yeah.
But they don't have, like, traditional, like, triangle roofs that we're used to here. It was just literally just, like, a rectangle.
Just, like, crammed beside each other.
So small. And then you made a friend.
I did. I met George's neighbor. Or, like, I don't want to call him just George's neighbor. I guess just, like, the Harrison's neighbor. Because he had lived in that house. He was George's neighbor there on, I guess, what would be, which...
So
11,
if you're facing
maybe?
the house...
Did it go 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on? Or
I'm
was
not
it...
sure.
Because George is 12, right?
Yes, George is 12.
Whatever was on just immediately, if you're facing the house, immediately to the left.
Yes.
This guy was there, this, like, older fella, and he just had, like, toilet paper and, like, maybe some other groceries in his arm. But he, like, quite clearly was just coming back from grocery shopping. And he sees us taking these photos out there. And, of course... all the people in Liverpool are just too incredibly kind, apparently. He stops to just chat with us. This is like, you know, I can't, he probably sees so many people stop there.
That's the thing, is just like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like rude, but I would just kind of, I feel like, I thought that people would be annoyed, like,
or
more people are in front of my house, but he was just so nice.
Like, yeah, because we didn't stop him or anything.
No.
He started talking to us. Like, it was so...
Yeah.
So kind of him to do something like that. And I know it's like silly to say that, but like you were saying, imagine all the people like us who just stop in front of this house. It hasn't been owned by George Harrison or his estate, like, for however long, right? It has no relation other than the fact that, it was his home growing up.
Yeah.
And here this guy comes out and he was coming back from groceries and he stops to chat with us about it. He started telling me that George had come back to visit only like a few times post Beatle mania or post Beatles, and at first I was like kind of taken back. I was like, "I'm sorry, wait, what? What do you mean?" And then I clued in to the fact that this guy's been living here for a while, and then we started talking, and I think it was Ricky actually told me after, because I don't think I got it from him. But he'd been living in that house since 1939 or something like that. 38.
His family moved in 3 years
before George was born, something like that.
Or before Louise moved in.
Yeah, that sounds right. Actually, yeah.
So he's a bit older than George.
He allegedly, I think was it him who said that he remembers?
He said he remembers the balloons like at the house the day that they brought George home from the hospital, and then Ricky also joked with us that. The neighbor jokes that if he had known George was going to be such a big superstar, he would have been better friends with him. That was really cool. It definitely like showed how much of a community there is there. Like, it's just such, I don't know.
I mean, Ricky knew the guy.
Yeah.
So he might, like, because I'm
sure.
Call him
by his name. Yeah, they all know each other.
Ricky knew like a lot of people.
Everyone.
Like everywhere we're going, he just like, you're like, oh, hello, love. Like, and you're like, how do you know everyone? Like,
but yeah, that was really cool. Especially because like George is what connected us, and then to see like the house that he literally was brought into as a baby, and just like, oh my god, like this is a big moment. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So then after that, things kind of got a little bit tricky. Not tricky, but like. Kind of like mismatched in where we went. So John's house and Paul's house are both owned by the National Trust, and then to get in you have to like purchase tickets. We didn't purchase tickets, we just kind of assumed that everything would be done through Pool of Life, which it was. They took care of everything.
They're dope.
But because we were in a group with like 3 other people, we kind of had to go in at different times. Mm-hmm. They just kind of like fit us in where they could. So we drove to Mendips, which is John's house. We didn't get to go in yet. Our American friends went in first, and then Ricky had to kind of do like a shuffling act between like who was going where. So we got to see the outside of John's house first. And then he also showed us like where Cynthia was like, not Cynthia. He showed us where Julia was like hit by the car and stuff like that.
It's like right across the street. That's sad.
And it was like a really big contrast from where like George and Ringo are living versus like John's
John
house.
lived in a nice
house.
Nice house, nice neighborhood, like
really beautiful. Yeah, we went to Mendip's. Our American friends joined the National Trust tour. So it was just us and the Australian guy, and we went to drive around a little bit while they were doing their tour. So we went to Strawberry Fields first.
Yeah, that was a fun one because Ricky
did the exact same thing. He like pulled the car up like kind of a little bit walk away.
Yeah.
Like we didn't like drive past it. He just like pulled up. Like say it was here, he like pulled up here. And we're just like slowly walking, and then you're like, oh! I remember you like actually physically did like a whoa, we're here.
Because you walk like you're walking up the street, and there's just like a wall beside you, like, and it's nothing special or anything like that. And Ricky's kind of asking, he's like, "You guys know where we are?" And we're like, "No clue, Ricky." Okay, because I don't know where anything is in relation to each other in Liverpool, right? I've looked on maps before, but I'm there. I'm not thinking we drove this way from John's house. Like, no. So then we're walking up, and then all out of nowhere else in the wall like dips in, and there's just this big red gate, and you're like, okay.
You're like, whoa.
This is it. I know where we are now, yeah.
Ricky knew all the angles for the photos.
All our pictures, like, of those sweet angle shots where it says Strawberry Fields and we're standing right again. That was all Ricky's idea.
Because we were taking photos, and he's like, you guys want the good photos?
Yeah.
He took the photos for us, and he told us like a little bit about the significance of like stuff that I didn't know. Like obviously we know that it's a song and that it's written by John, but like he kind of told us some stories about why John loved going there, and he also told us that Yoko, or was it one of the women at Mendip's? Somebody told us that Yoko like actually invests money to.
I think they both told us
keep it the way.
Actually,
to keep it the way it is, so it doesn't turn into some like theme park or like
based around like their music or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was.
Every year, I think Yoko. I think money goes to Strawberry Fields.
It's good though, isn't it? A good picture.
I've been taking photos of a lot of the architecture